Hello, I'm Julia Cordova. Thank you so much for subscribing to my YouTube channel and liking my videos. I really appreciate it. So last week I talked about it being the week of the McSqueezy for oil, natural gas, and silver. And what do you know? All three of those things squeezed up pretty significantly. And I also had said that if you held my toes to the fire, I thought that the market would potentially go down, which really just tells you that, thoughts and feelings aren't as great as charts and levels. So for this week, when I was looking over the charts, I did not see anything as an incredibly obvious high probability odds ending for this coming week. But I do see a lot of great setups. And if I was going to name this week, I would call it the week of Chop Stravaganza. The Chop Stravaganza week. I think so. I don't know, but we'll see. And so that means, though, that there's a lot of good trade setups at various levels. So I'll go over those levels and then see if you see anything interesting. I'd be very curious to hear your take as well. And with that said, the reason I have my glasses on already is because I don't know if I have allergies or like what's going on, but my eyes are swollen and I just don't want to deal with it. But anyway, I'm not going to put my glasses because I have them on. So anyway, you ready? Let's talk charts. All right. Oh my God. It's not good without the whoop. Whoop. All right. There we go. Okay. All right. So let's start off by looking at ES or SPX futures. This is the weekly over here. And so last week, we had nary a downtick going on in our weekly chart. And so we are in the thumbs up zone. So anything above, just on a weekly basis, anything above 4465, still incredibly bullish. It's still incredibly bullish all the way down here, okay? It's bullish. Bullish, 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 bullish. Doesn't mean it won't go down, but it just means be careful in your sizing. And in fact, it might. I don't know. We'll see. But so anywhere above 4465 is good. If the market did go down, that would be a very good, at least scalp upwards at 4465. And then we don't have resistance on the weekly until all the way to 4604. And then it's really not looking at, because look at all of these MAs are pointed upwards, and it's really not looking at all like wah, wah, until it's underneath that 4380 level, which is below this MA here, which is the MA9, the shortest term. Okay, and now on the daily, we have a little bit more color here, because we have a measured move coming up of 4592, which is similar to this 4604. So that would, if it gets there, be resistance, that area this week. And I'm going to just say this daily gap level, this gap that had been left and then filled this past week, which is 4472 to 4474. Below there, that's kind of an early warning signal that 4465 will probably get tested. And then we'll take it level to level from there, depending on whether or not we hit all the way down here to this back test line of 4432. And I did add another line here for RSI because when we did close the week on Friday, we were just exactly at RSI resistance. So will we close above that on Monday and break out? I do not know, but it's exciting. Okay, let's talk about NASDAQ. Okay, so we got above this 15209 level that I'd been looking for quite some time, and again, nary a downtick on the weekly. So I don't have resistance, another resistance here, until 15737 on the weekly channel line. This measured move is still in play, although I don't know when we'll get there. And then from here, I will tell you that I think I miscalculated this before, because I realized that the measured move is sort of starting at this flag I'd drawn in and not this channel line. So I'm just going to adjust this. I wanted to do it live, so you're like, Cordova's changing our charts. Yeah, I am, but in real time with you on a Sunday, because that's what we love to do. Okay, here we go. So 15464 is the measured move here. Yay. Okay. Yay. All right. So that's sort of the next target here from a NASDAQ perspective. And then let me go ahead and label this line in case we get there on, this would be Monday, Tuesday. Well, why don't we do it Monday? So if on Sunday night / Monday we start ripping, this line would be 15,505 if we get above this measured move, which is 15,464. Okay, now let's look at small caps, which I have not done in quite a while. And I wanted to do this because I'm staring at this chart. And let me just be very blunt and frank with you. I've been trading a long time. So here, this level, and when I look at these tops here, it does not look toppy to me, okay? Because it's sort of like it's not really gone down enough from either of these to call it a double top, nowhere even close. But also, when I look at this area here, it does not look bottomy to me. Like it just keeps retesting it, which is generally, not always, but generally not a good sign. So I'm like, I, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I think that means, I'm pretty sure that means that if we do get above this rocket line of 2350, and I think it will go up from there, that God forbid we go back below it, it's going to be fakey breaky of epic proportions and go very far down, back down to here. Now, it also means though, if it drops first, then at some point it's going to head right back up. So basically, if it drops below here, I think the idea would be where to buy it. And if it pops above here, you could certainly, and by the way, you could certainly take both scalps. When it gets below here, scalp it down. When it gets above here, scalp it up. But if it gets below here, the idea would be, well, where do we buy it? So that's kind of an interesting thing. That's what I think. And although, my channel lines here, a back test of 2263 would be exactly that, of a back test on the weekly. But you can see sort of the triangle that I drew in by hand here to here. It hasn't quite hit there yet, but it's almost there. It's there, essentially there. So we'll see whether we back test and get a breakout or whether we go up first and come back down here. But I'm using this as a pivot to figure that out. I'm sort of waiting on this one just to see what happens because, again, I don't like to take things that are not high probability to me, and I don't know what the heck's going on here, like I said. Okay, let's look at Bitcoin. Okay, so this is interesting. So, I've been bearish on this, and I've talked about the price action in the past, so I'm not going to reiterate that. But as bearish as one might feel or think something is, it doesn't matter. It's what's in front of you that matters. And what was in front of me at this time is a flag, or at the very minimum, a channel that is being traded. So see what it did here? It went up and then okay. Now it hasn't yet broken out, although what I've noticed is Bitcoin waits until after my Sunday videos and then tries to make me look like a jerk no matter what I say. Like whatever I say, it's like, nah, we're doing the opposite. Anyway, we still haven't broken out because, and I wouldn't call this a fakey breaky, what happened yesterday, because it is, and by the way, this is Sunday at 5:11 Eastern time, because we closed exactly on the line. So this is just a peak above and back below. Now, I will say, right now, it is above that line. So, let me just zoom in. So, above, if it closes today above 48,623, let's say 48,624, then that will be officially a breakout. So it better hold. And if it does break out, I went ahead and calculated the measured move for you, which usually I'm super superstitious about because, like, I don't like to calculate measured moves unless it's done it and potentially could still close lower than this, which would not be a breakout and not be a fakey breaky, I don't think, because it's not high enough. But anyway, the measured move, if it does maintain that breakout, is 51515. Let me label that. That is the measured move. Here we go. Oh, sorry. Ugh. I'm sorry. I'm not feeling great. Okay. Okay, there we go. So that's what to look out for if we hold this breakout. Now, by the way, how did I get that? I took the height of this channel. I didn't call this a flag because even though it is flaggy, the length of this flag, I think, is too long for this pole. So in my opinion, it's just a channel. So I just took the length of this channel and I added it to the point of breakout, which came to be right here, which is also the top of the channel. Okay, but 51515. Okay, now let's look at Ethereum. Okay, so with Ethereum, you know, what's interesting to me is this looks a little bit like the small caps, doesn't it? Like it's just doing that thing where it doesn't look toppy, but it also doesn't look bottomy. So essentially again, I'm just looking at these lines here, or these, up lines. If it can break out above 32.79 or so again, then I think that would be short-term bullish, potentially up to this pink line area. Okay. And though if it sort of holds below that, it's not necessarily bearish because it's still in that chop zone. And I would only say that it was really bearish. Firstly, I think another back test of this key would not be a good sign. It would be like, oh, I don't know. And then secondly, below this, it's still in the chop zone though, but below this 28, I mean, maybe make it a few days out here. Below this 28.62 level, bearish. So right now it's just still in the chop zone. It hasn't broken out. It hasn't gotten to, danger Will Robinson level yet, and it hasn't gotten to this thumbs down zone. Okay, now let's talk about GDX. I was very, as a metals long-term bull, I was very pleased by this week's action in GDX, but I was a little bit disappointed because a gap was left. If you look here, the close of the previous week and then the low of this last week, we have a gap now that is lower at 30.85. So best case scenario, I think, would either be a very quick backfill to that and then up, or let's just ignore that the same way we've ignored this gap. And the longer I find, the longer we ignore a gap, then the further away from it we can get and not worry about it. So let's just like put on our blinders and go. However, the reason I think it's going to be a choppy week is because we do have resistance coming up of an actual gap that is not hidden here at 33.08 to 33.24. So if it were to get to this level here, it's still below, by the way, it's still below all of these MAs. So for people who are bearish, that would be a good level to short, in my opinion. Whereas if it got all the way down here, that would be a good level, I think, to take at least a long scalp. But I expect some resistance in the next week. So potentially, that's what I meant by like, a chop week. I don't know, but those are the levels that I'm watching. And if I have further clarity, I might tweet about it. I might not. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, okay, let's look at gold. Okay, so, I took the same slope that I'd used here on this previous fakey breaky bull flag, and I applied it here before. And this week we finally broke above, and in fact, stopped right at channel resistance. However, at least we are above 2 out of the 3 MAs that I watch, which is a short-term bullish signal. In order for gold to break out this week, it has to get above 1828.5. A back test of this breakout would be 1804, and the level it must hold for bulls is 1769.7. The key area, which is sort of the bull, sort of my dividing area between whether it's bullish, bearish, it's still above, and that area is 1788.9. So I expected to a little bit of this week, but we'll see, because RSI also looks like it broke out as well. You can imagine. Actually, so let me do that. There we go. Okay. I mean, it doesn't actually have a lot of resistance here until this, but you can sort of imagine, if you wanted to, another line here that I didn't draw and that we broke out from this past week. So it's got some room. It's got some room to go. I hope it does break out above 1828. Okay, so let's look at silver. Okay, we finally got some of that squeeze in silver last week, but not as much as I was hoping for. based on the oil and the natty squeeze, I was like, oh, okay, we have a laggard. That's good. That's usually good for a really, easy call. Um, so anyway, finally, silver's starting to stop being such an ugly little sister to gold. We at least got some upwards action. On the weekly chart, I don't have any resistance here until 24.67. Support is at 23.34, and it really does need to hold that if it goes all the way back there. But I had talked about this bull flag here on Twitter, and it was annoying, right? Because it was like you wanted to say, so many times in trading, you want to say, if above this level, bullish, if below, bearish. But the problem is when you're talking about a trend line, that level is always moving. Ugh. But anyway, I did calculate the measured move because we broke out of this flag, and the measured move from this is 24.85. But again, with some, I put in the chop there because we've got some resistance here at this line. I don't know when it'll hit. And we've got some resistance here at this line, and I don't know when it'll hit. So, just make sure, always make sure you lock. Whenever I take a scalp or a trade, I try to make sure to lock in at least partial profit so that the trade is green. You know what I mean? No matter what, you could stop out, break even on the rest, but you made money, that kind of thing. Or you could hit a home run and potentially all the rest of it will go to the moon. So with that said, let's go to talk about oil. So here is the oil weekly chart. I drew in some more lines because this does look like it's forming a bull flag, right? Like boop, 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 boop. Now, technically speaking, at the end of the week, we did not end outside of that bull flag. So, or touch the bottom of this channel. So I calculated the measured move from a breakout here of this channel, which we did break out of, and that measured move is about 72.52 or so. So let me just put that as another pivot. I know this is probably nobody's watched me before. They're like, what is he doing? So basically these lines that I've drawn here, the red lines, are channel lines that have worked for me before and that algos tend to respect. Which is why when I went short initially it happened to also be at this MA. It was about, I don't even remember, 68.4 or so, which is why I was pretty confident that was a good thing because it had squeezed all the way up here and it was at this MA. And sure enough, we did get a move all the way back to this channel and then, of course, up again. So that's what I mean by always taking some profit. I talked about where I took profit, but potentially I should tweet about that as well, just to let you know. Anywho, okay, so for this coming week, these are the pivots I'm watching. The measured move from this channel breakout is 72.52. 71.14 is the bottom of this longer term channel that we fell out of. So if it stays inside of here at the end of the week, I think that would be bullish. But for now, so this is a bull flag. We're watching this, but it's possible that we get a fakey breaky out of here. I don't know why I think that so much, as I'm looking at it very similarly to gold, where we formed this giant weekly bull flag and every single person was super bullish. There were super bullish catalysts on the horizon, but yeah, no, I'm gonna watch this. So these are the pivots I'm watching. I'm gonna add one more here. Oops. I'm gonna add one more here. I don't like the way I don't know why it's doing that like recently. Okay, so the flag breakout would be 69.76 and 71.14 back into that channel, and 72.52 is the measured move from this red channel. So those are the pivots that I'm watching. If it gaps way up and then gets under any of these, it would be a nice scalp opportunity, I think, to go from one to the other. So I'll be looking for that myself. Now, we also, we filled a gap here that we'd left in XOP this week, which is the oil's equity basket of equity stock. But we, in the process of doing so, left yet another bigger gap down here where it's one of those hidden gaps where we close the week here, we start the week here, but the low of the week never got anywhere close to where we closed the past week. So now, even though this gap is filled, this gap remains open. So how to play that? If we get back below this first gap that we filled, which is at 79.10 or so, then I think it's a nice, at least potentially, I don't know, I had to look on smaller time frames, but a nice potentially short down to this area here, which we left before. So that's one way to play it. Now it's possible, you know, I've talked about oil potentially being a massive, I've talked about oil potentially being a massive head and shoulders coming all the way down, you know, here, which is possible. But we keep our mind open, especially with this bull flag. Let me get back here. Now, from an XOP perspective, it is possible that this is going to be a head and shoulders. So it's possible that we see some continuation in oil and oil's equity stocks, and we get all the way up, you know, around this area or so, and then head back down. So that's possible. It's one thing that I'm looking at, and I think a lot of that will be determined by how fast we, or if we fill this gap we left down here. So I'm watching it. We'll see. Okay, let's look at Natty. So I calculated a measured move from Natty from breaking out of this bull flag, and that is 4.52, which is the next daily resistance that I see. So from a weekly perspective, you can see what looks like divergence here, and indeed is, but it looks like, just based on the price action, that this divergence is a flag and will potentially get taken out. So yeah, I watching 4.52, see what happens there if we get there. If not, I have some levels I'm watching down here to watch for price action, but everything looks good as of right now. Let's talk about Joe Coffee. So I talked about Joe being bullish. Yeah, it's very bullish. It could go down. Of course it could. But I think longer term, I mean, this is starting to look like a bull flag, and it's looking like we potentially have a breakout this past week. So I will at least attempt to scalp dips down to 51.61 or so. That would be a very nice pullback to buy, in my opinion. And then resistance isn't until 54.84, so we'll see what happens there if we get there. And that is Joe. Okay, that's it. So, all right, make myself big. Okay, thank you again for subscribing to my YouTube channel and liking my videos. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a great trading week, and I will see you on the internet. Okay, bye.